let's make this whole thing interactive. So if you guys have any questions, just interrupt, whatever. Let's just make it useful for you guys. Just to kind of set the stage, you know, my position is that venture capital, you know, whether you're an angel or VC, venture capital is a business that's ripe for disruption. Just as much as you guys are disrupting your business, that's what we're doing. That's what we believe that other investors should be doing to their markets. The point is that venture capital is not fundamentally changed in the last 50 years, but because of some of the new economies of scale, open source, cloud, the laptops you have are more powerful than anything ever. The world's changing, and that forces venture capital to change. And that's actually important for you guys to understand, because what's happening here, the macro trend, is what we call the rise of the angels, right? The rise of the angels. And you should remember, if nothing else, you should just remember that this decade is about the rise of the angels globally. A little bit about us. I'm not entirely full of shit. You may know my partner, Dave McClure. We have one other partner, Christine Tsai, right now. We're based out of Mountain View, California. We're 18 months old, but we have done 256 investments. We've invested in 256 companies across 15 countries already. 3 of those companies are here in India, and we'll do probably another 10 or 15 or so this year, just in India alone. And we do about 40 investments as a whole every quarter.
And why you named it 500 startups?
Yeah, so the reason it was named 500 generally is that, like, founders, they wear 500 hats, right? So it's not about getting to 500 startups. We'll hit that number in, like, I don't know, like a month, I don't know. But the point is that, like, when you're a founder of an early stage startup, you got to take out the trash. You're doing deploys. You got to do the biz dev. You got to raise the money. Like, you don't have the luxury of, like, outsourcing, or, you know, waiting till tomorrow, or frankly, I'm just going to call bullshit on anybody that's at school right now. If you raised money, if you took somebody's money to build your business, and you're not going all in, then you're an asshole. And I'm just going to say it, right? That's an asshole thing to do. I will not fund you if you're not going to actually, like, take your business seriously. And I'll talk to these guys about making sure it doesn't happen again. Surprise, by the way. Oh, by the way, I'm on Twitter, I'm Paul Singh, and on AngelList, if you guys are on there, just Paul Singh as well. So the trend that we're going to talk about, by the way, just to set this up, is that, like, there's this revolution going on, right? There's just a revolution going on, and like, startup founders need to realize that it's happening. Bill James, if you guys have ever watched the movie Moneyball, that theory, that economic theory, is really built around what Bill wrote about in the 80s, right? About going after undervalued assets and you know, distribution, investing early and then doubling down. Eric Ries, you guys might have heard about him as the lean startup guy. He's one of our venture advisors as well, good friend. And then Peter James over here, Little Bets. It's a newer book. But the idea is he talks about how large corporations have already taken this to heart, and they've got labs, not unlike this, right, where they're trying out ideas and iterating and doubling down real fast on the winners. So the point is that the world is changing, and, you know, capital is becoming more and more accessible to people, regardless of where you are. It doesn't matter whether you're the girl from Bangalore, the black guy from Rio, or the white guy from Stanford. The world just got really flat. And one of the things that got it really flat was, more recently, it was this thing called AngelList, right? You know, to give you guys some context, AngelList had over 500 startups on there last 2011. They had 2,500 investors on there from all over the world, and 12,500 introductions were made on that platform. People got funded on AngelList. In fact, actually, every company at 500 is on AngelList, right? And remember, we're in 15 countries. We're not just like some U.S. incubator or seed fund or anything. We're global. And that's working for us. We're the #1 followed on there. We use it as a platform to help our companies raise money all over the world. If you're not on AngelList, you should be, right? You should be. Like, there's just no excuse. There's no reason why you shouldn't be. Just as a quick kind of overview of, like, what AngelList is really about. this is, I know this isn't really that sharp and we can talk about it later, but the point is, like, what it really is like, this is my actual account, and what it really is like my menus, but it's the activity stream, right? It tells me like what's happening, what's trending, what other angels and VCs are interested in right now, and it's across the entire platform. I can be an angel in, I don't know, Pune, and I have access to the same deals that I have access to at 500 startups. If you don't think that's powerful, then you're crazy, right? So this is actually a profile for a company. I actually founded this company a while ago. Actually, my co-founders run it now. I'm pretty busy these days, so I don't really get to work on my startup anymore. But this is our profile. You can actually go on angel.co/fastcustomer. This is one of my other startups, but the point is that we raised $750K from AngelList on this, right? And you can look at our profile; it's all there. The key thing is on the top right of that profile. I'm sure if you guys look at it, you'll see there's this little box. Now these numbers are a little old, but the point is though is that like these numbers matter, right? So like I've got 226 followers. Whenever I actually took the screenshot, 40 introductions. 40 people actually said, "I want to talk to you about your business." Right? I didn't have to go anywhere. I actually built this prototype in a coffee shop just outside of Washington, D.C. Right? And 40 introductions. And that's not because I'm special. That's because like the product works. Again, I'm sorry this is like a little blurry, but the thing is like when you look at that same profile, you'll see like how we actually pitched it, right? It turns out I got some press on New York Times, CNN, NBC. I mean, they're just minor mentions, but I got to mention those brands, right? And like it's a clear product statement. We're going to talk about this in a minute, but like the product statement is everyone hates waiting on hold. Right? Who here loves to wait on hold? Not a single one of you. That's a clear problem definition, right? Don't pitch me the product, pitch me the solution. Or pitch me the problem, I'm sorry, pitch me the problem, don't pitch me the product or the solution. We'll talk more about this in a minute. In terms of traction, like people use it, and I didn't spend any money on it, right? Like it says here, you can see on the profile, 550,000 minutes on hold, 45,000 downloads on the iOS store, 11,000 downloads the first week it went live, and then I got graphs. By the way, these graphs are so small you can't even see the X and Y axis. Nobody cares. What they care about is like, is it up and to the right, right? Up and to the right. That, we joke about, like even VCs laugh about like, just show me the hockey stick, right? The reason they say that is because like it doesn't really matter, at some point it doesn't matter, but the point is when you're first looking at a startup, whether it's on AngelList or in person, the hockey stick just tells the VC or the angel that somebody cares, right? And we'll talk more about that in a minute. But it's really about getting into the activity feed on AngelList, right? It's really about getting into the activity feed, that middle part of the page. It's also about the follows, right? If you're not actually building stuff that's useful, if you're not actually if your profile is not like interesting, people aren't going to follow it. If they're not following it, you're not going to show in their activity feed. Like if people don't care, like it's sort of the, what's the statement? It's like if a tree falls in the middle of the woods and nobody's around to hear it, did the tree actually fall? That's the thing. Like if you're not getting people to care, like all too often engineers will just build stuff and then totally forget to talk about it. Right? Most companies die of suicide, not market, not competitors, not anything else. Nobody like crushes them. Like those big behemoths like these guys and Apple, they don't give a fuck who you are. They're not even gonna like buy you, or they're not gonna like try to crush you. Because the minute they try to, that means you're onto something. Right? So like, but the point is, most companies die because of suicide, that nobody cares. And so it's about the follows. Right? The point I'm trying to make is that it's not different than real life. The reason why AngelList is so powerful is not because like Naval is so smart, he's very smart, but it's because like it's very similar to real life. If you actually play around with AngelList, what you find is that it actually plays on like human psychology, right? In general, you guys want to hang out with the popular people, just like I do, just like any other human does, right? And so the point is that like on AngelList, there's this activity feed with trending startups. And if I'm an angel or a VC, why wouldn't I just follow the trending ones? Why should I follow the new ones? Right? So, the question you guys are asking yourselves probably by now is like, why is it so hard for you to raise money? So, all right, listen. First of all, the odds are against you. You think you're really special. I see hundreds of deals a day. Right? And the thing is, like, if an angel or VC is on AngelList, he or she is seeing hundreds of deals a day. Why are you special? The point is not to knock you down. The point is to just say that the odds are against you. Right? You don't deserve the angel's time. You have to earn it. And I'm not saying that to be an asshole. That's the fact of the matter. As the world gets increasingly flatter and smaller, and even in your own country, as more and more of you get online, the market's getting crowded. And what that fundamentally means is the bar has to rise, right? It is no longer good enough to say, oh, I think it'd be cool if I could do this. Like, I don't give a fuck, go build it, right? I'm not in the business, and most angels and VCs are not in the business of helping you take your idea from napkin to paper, because the fact is, if you really cared, you would borrow a laptop, you would find a friend, you would find a way to build that prototype. That's the fact. That's just, unfortunately, that's what the world's come to. The thing is, you probably can't read this, but the thing is, everyone else is raising money. Everybody else wants the money, right? And if you imagine capital, like money, it's a finite pool, right? There's all these investors out there. The point is, it's a finite pool. And as more and more people come online, as more and more people try to build products and they try to raise money, you've got more people fighting for this finite pool of money. It's just rational. You're going to have to raise the bar. You guys have to be awesome for me to think you're awesome. Right? The other thing is, like, first impressions matter. Get an intro. So, like, one of the things that Dave and I say all the time is that, like we'll go to events and stuff, and, like, God love them, the people start pitching us, right? And, you know, our response to that is, like, don't pitch us. Pitch the guys that brought us here. Pitch the people we know, right? Like, for example, if you, like, let's say we're at an event or something like that, and you pitch me, like, I don't know you. And how much can I get to know you in 5 minutes? And actually, if you did your homework on 500 startups, you'll find that we're a referral only. But the good news is that if you followed us, you know that Bunkage was on our Geeks on a Plane. Well, that probably means that if Bunkage says, hey, you should look at this, I'll at least look at it, right? And I would argue that that's what you should be doing with every angel and VC, right? You know, as a little side story, I met Dave like 4 or 5 years ago in a bar. Dave McClure, I met in a bar in DC.
That's a surprise.
Oh, for real. Actually, yeah. Yeah, we met in a bar. We met through a mutual friend. I didn't know what he was doing. He didn't know what I was doing. I don't even remember. It was just a while ago. But all I know is that, like, in hindsight, like, we weren't selling each other, right? Like we were just hanging out. And actually, it was all kind of accidental, right? Like, I didn't know what he was doing. This guy, Jared, was a mutual friend. And it was just a get-together of startups and just startup people. And anyway, it just kind of, you know, over a few years, we just started working together. But the point is here, is that your goal on that first meeting is to just not be weird. Right? You know what I'm saying? Like, you know when you, like, go to a party and, like, there's that, like, one dude or that one girl that's just, like, fucking crazy? Like, and then you just remember it and you're like, that guy's fucking crazy. I don't even want to see him again. I'm not going anywhere that I see that person. Like, you don't even have to
dating as well.
What's that?
That goes for dating as well.
Yeah. Like, you don't even have to admit to it, but I guarantee you, I see you all nodding, so you know what I'm talking about. Like, you find some, like, weird person, you're just like, I don't even want to be near that person, right? And that same thing goes for, like, for it applies to everything. Not only venture capital, but, you know, your dating life. If you end up going to this, like, corporate stuff over here, like, that place looks like a hellhole. I love Times India. Like, I've never seen such a high density of cubes. And they're not even cubes, they're like little shells that you sit on.
These are extra large.
Well, geez. By the way, I was saying this to the other guys earlier this morning. If you guys fuck up your startups, that's where you're going to end up. Don't be that guy. Don't end up out there. But you know what I'm saying, right? The point is, just don't be weird. Just hang out, be normal. Your goal in the first meeting is just get the second one.
Yeah.
Right? Nobody ever got funded on the first meeting. It's just a fact. The other thing is to understand, that didn't turn out, the colors didn't really turn out, but that's okay. The other thing to understand is that angels, okay, so just quick high-level thing. There's angels, and then there's venture capitalists, right? And the way go ahead.
I just have a question.
Yeah.
So you suggested that you get an intro always, right?
Yeah.
You get an intro.
Yeah.
But when you start off, you tend to suffer from the cold start problem.
When you start out as being an entrepreneur?
Huh?
Or when you start out your company?
Yeah. So you don't know where to start or whom to approach. So what is it that you do to get on to the next level? I would say that would be the second step, as in you can get an intro on this. But when you start off, there's a cold start. You don't know what you don't know.
The way I would explain it is like my story, right? So certainly I told you about Dave. You know, so like I was born and raised in the Washington D.C. area, and I mean I would come back to India like every December and just spend a month here. My family's up north, and like you know, the thing is I grew up in like this 15-mile radius. I never wanted to leave. I went to university there. I actually met my wife there. Like our families are there. In fact, even today, I still live on the East Coast and split my time and fly around. But the thing is that actually I got introduced to Silicon Valley now almost 6 years ago. Believe it or not, through a blog. So there was a blog I was following called IWillTeachYouToBeRich.com, which is like this personal finance blog that I thought was really fantastic. And I would just comment on there. And it turns out the guy that was on there was this guy, the guy whose blog it was this guy, Ramit Sethi. And he was the founder of PBWiki, or one of the 3 founders of PBWiki. And long story short, like because of that relationship, you know, I ended up moving out to Silicon Valley. He ended up hiring me to work at his startup. So I had done startups for a while. I had my exit, did a few years, tried a few other things, went to PBWiki because of Ramit, because of this blog. And you know, and then went off and did another startup and another exit. But the thing is, like, you don't know. See, the thing is, like, you don't know if the next Mark Zuckerberg is sitting next to you right now, right? You just don't know. And frankly, I don't know how to pick it. I would argue that no other VC knows how to find that person early, right? And the thing is, like, what that really means is that the unfortunate truth is that everybody has a cold start, but you just have to do something, right? You just have to. You have to find what works for you. Like some guys release open source software. Some guys blog a lot. Some guys comment a lot. Some guys, you know, just they go to a lot of networking events. What you need to do is figure out what's the highest leverage thing for you, right? So I don't know if that answers your question, but the point is everybody starts somewhere. The good news is that you're in here now, right? So the thing is, like, you've got Pankaj and Abhishek. Where is he? Right, he's right here. You've got these 2 guys who are now like in the industry, known as the guys that are running this place, right? If they make the intro, then you've got it. You guys are a step above. And what that means also is that you guys, how many people are here? 10? Something? Anyway, you guys, now there's other founders that are looking to get and meet these guys, right? You guys should be the filter. And you guys should have a high bullshit bar, right? Because the thing is, like this thing, this TLabs thing, you guys are this is the introductory class, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So like, you are the first, and if you refer like shitty companies, you're an asshole, right? Before you refer anybody to these guys, the filter you should use in your head is would I put my money into it? And you should, and I'm not asking you to do that for me because I'm a VC and it makes me, you know, better. I'm doing it because, like, if that person gets in, let's just say on the off chance that person gets in, and they suck, they just brought the value of the TLabs brand down. Do you know what I mean? So, like the point I'm making is you guys are now warm starts, right? I don't know how you guys came in, but the point is it's irrelevant. You guys are here now. You have access to people that have access to even more angels and VCs. And most importantly, whether you believe it or not, people on the outside will see you guys as the rock stars, right? And you guys have to be the filter now, right? So you do not refer anybody to these guys unless you love the business and you would invest your own money, and it's somebody that you would want to be like seen alongside. right? One of the things I'll tell you as an aside, by the way, is that at 500 startups, so we're referral only, and we track, so you can come through referrals to our mentor network. We've got 175 mentors now globally. Today we also have 470 founders all over the world, right? So there's a lot of people that you can find to actually get the intro. Now the thing is, you can't just reach out to them and say, hey dude, introduce me to Paul, right? Because I've set the expectation with them that if they start sending shit deals, I'm not going to pay attention anymore. And you should be very careful with your social capital, right? Don't be an asshole, like don't block every deal, but at the same time, have a high filter. The best thing you can do is if you don't think you're ready to refer somebody, tell them exactly why. Don't even sugarcoat it, right? Because the worst thing you can do to somebody is not tell them how to be better. That's the worst thing you can do. It's not saying no. It's just kind of being like, actually we'll talk about that here in a minute. But see, the thing is, so at the high level, there's two things. There's angels and then there's VCs, right? And then there's all these other terms now that people use, like super angels and all these other things. The fact of the matter is there's angels and VCs. There's one fundamental difference between the two. Angels invest their own money. VCs invest somebody else's money. So even if somebody tells you that they're an angel and they're using somebody else's money, they're a VC. And there's a very big difference behind that, which is, like at least in the US, and I would argue everywhere else on the planet, as a VC, when I'm investing somebody else's money, I have what's called a fiduciary duty to invest it only in places where I think it can reasonably make money. Right? I can't guarantee that it'll make money, but that means it reasonably will make money. That's very different than angels, because angels, it's their own money. There's no legal oversight there. They can do whatever they want with their money. They invest for very different reasons. Right? Angels are investing for like social proof, for example. Right? And by the way, this is not like none of these are mutually exclusive. The point is, like, an angel might invest for social proof. He or she might just want to like be in a deal that the TLabs guys are in, right? So he can go tell his friends how awesome he is, right? Or he might just want to like say to his friends, "I'm investing in startups. It's sexy, right?" It's whatever. But maybe it's that. Maybe it's it's reciprocity. I can't even say that myself. On the planet, I made this up on the. What that really means, though, is maybe Pankaj has done me a favor, and now when he refers me a deal, I just know I owe him. I should just do the deal. That just happens. That, believe it or not, that happens in the angel world. Is like sometimes an angel will refer another deal to another angel, and then ultimately that deal blows up, and then that angel feels like he owes it to the other guy now, right?
Yeah, that's what I've seen everywhere, in jobs and everywhere else. Network works.
That's right.
Simple.
That's right. Pattern recognition. This one is interesting, where like certain angels or VCs, they think they can predict the next Mark Zuckerberg. Well, whatever. More power to them, right? Curiosity. They just like what you're doing. They just, they want to live vicariously through you, and it's fun. Returns is a big one, right? Like, they're not a bank. This is the highest risk asset class. If they wanted to make 3% or whatever I don't know what the rates are here, but if they want to make 3% a year guaranteed, they can just go put it in a money market account. But if they're investing in this asset class, the early stage asset class is arguably one of the riskiest ones. Well, they're looking for, I don't know, 3, 5, 10x, something like that. Scarcity. Scarcity is an interesting one. If an angel likes to invest a lot, so basically it's a supply-demand curve. There's always less badass startups than there are investors. There's a lot of money. By the way, if you don't realize it, there's so much money in India and globally. There's more money chasing deals than ever. And I always chuckle when like founders are like, "Oh man, there's just no investors around." I'm like, "Fuck you. You're just not doing your homework." There's like, never mind AngelList. Like your GDP here is like 7%. What is it? 7 or
7.
Okay, 7. Let's just call it 7. That's like the 9th, and you're the 9th biggest economy in the world. Like, don't tell me there's no money here.
Oh, there's a lot of money.
Yeah, right? So, but the point is here, there's more money chasing fewer deals. You have to be awesome, right? And traction. Like, basically, if your company's blowing up, I want to get in, right? And so, like, the point I'm just making is that, like, like often what mistakes Angel, or the mistake that startups will make when they're fundraising is that they don't understand what the guy across the table is optimizing for, right? Don't sell, if I'm the VC or the angel, right? Don't sell me what you want, sell me what I need, right? And that's, remember how, this all ties together, by the way. Like, remember I said, like, don't be weird on that first meeting. Well, what the point there is to get to know the guy, or the girl, whoever it is. Get to know them, figure out what they're up to, what do they like, and you don't even have to ask them directly. You could, you could just say, like, if you know they're investing in other companies, like, so what do you, like, why do you invest? Why do you invest? Is it to make money? Is it for fun? Whatever. Just figure it out. Just talk to them, right? Because that gives you the information you need to then modify your pitch, right? If the guy's optimizing for returns, well then you just need to get to the point of like proving your business model. You know what I mean? Because that's how he's going to do the math in his head. Is like, okay, well, if I buy 5% of this company, can they reasonably sell for X? And then I get my return, will it work, right? But if the guy is actually like looking for social proof, then you should actually be making sure that they know that you put the faces of the TLabs team on there, and make sure they know who they're investing alongside. You know what I mean? Sales is not rocket science. It's just a process. And I think startups just don't realize, like, you just need to sell what they want, it's what they want, not what you want. The other way to say this is like on the other end of the spectrum, great companies get bought, not sold. Right? By the way, as a side, I used to sell used cars when I was in college, so if I can sell used cars, I can sell anything. All right.
2 points are missing there. One was scalability and the second technology. To my mind, usually scalability of an idea is again something which is highly warranted.
Yeah, I mean, we can put all sorts of words on here.
No, I'm saying that, is that not a necessity? To my mind, I don't know too much about this. I mean, but if your idea is basically not scalable, if it is just going to be a regional this thing ultimately, it will have a multiplication of capital. Is it still somewhere, where angels, etc. are interested in?
Well, yeah. So,
if you're not really thinking of changing the world, but you know that locally this thing is not there. For example, there are tier 2, tier 3 cities which you can have a localized service for them, which is based on technology, and no other company will tomorrow be able to disrupt that, because you will be in that region and you will have a reasonable multiplication of capital. You will start off with 5 lakh, 10 lakh rupee, whatever the dollar term of that will be, and you can build it, you know that.
So the returns would also touch up on that.
Yeah, because, yes. So here's the thing, I'm just hesitating because the thing is, I care about customer acquisition cost and lifetime value, which is sort of, those two numbers feed into the scalability, because it helps determine how much money you're going to have to raise to grow the business. I would argue at the earliest stage, it's sort of irrelevant. Now, pay attention, if the investor that you're talking to cares, talk about it, right? I was talking to, yesterday I was talking to this guy who was he was the earliest angel in carwale.com. I think I exited last year, or the year before. And I asked him, like, why did you invest in that one? Vikram was his name, Vikram, anyway. So he says, he said that the founder had come to him, had a few transactions already, and basically the pitch was, it costs me X rupees to get the guy to come to my site, and then Y rupees to get him to actually do the transaction. And I think I can scale that. And as I scale that, I think I can bring those numbers down even more. And Vikram's own words were like, why wouldn't I fund that? It's like this funnel. I know how much it costs to go. I know, generally speaking, how many people through that funnel that money will buy. Right? So some investors care about that. Like guys like Vikram do care about that. What was the other one? Technology? Okay, so I would argue that tech platform doesn't matter. That's just personal opinion. But frankly, just personal opinion, if an investor is more or less excited about you because you're like a .NET shop, just walk away. Don't even take the money. It's going to be a fucking nightmare to deal with that guy, because the minute you have to change your tech stack, he's like, oh, well, I think that like the Ruby ORM processes this stuff, this much faster, and you're like, the fuck? That doesn't make me any more money, right? Like, it doesn't matter. And that'll only matter when you're like doing billions of transactions a second anyway, and like that marginal increase will help. So the point is, if people are looking for things that don't actually help move the business forward, just be careful. Because you'll end up chasing stuff that doesn't really matter to the business. Again, most companies don't fail because of market or tech or anything. It's just suicide. Nobody cares. Nobody actually knew they were there. Nobody actually wanted what they were building. I mean, just to be blunt, your software, whatever you're building, does any of your customers care what it's built on?
No.
So why should your investor? And if they don't get that, you don't have to convince them. Just walk away. Just walk away. I guarantee you that like you do not want bad money in your deal. It'll be a nightmare.
But sometimes investors, if it's a tech company, a technology-driven company, sometimes investors do see it as a hurdle for other people to cross. VCs best, right? So if you like
yeah, what's an example?
VCs get an erection on Hadoop, big data.
Say that again?
VCs get an erection on Hadoop, big data, most of the time. Why is that?
Well, I think it's just a little bit of a buzzword right now. But what do angels, like, I don't think angels really, I guess I should just say I'm only speaking from my own experience. And the thing is, like I try to make it a point to, so we do a lot of angel education as well. And I'll be starting to do that in India here probably in the next 4 to 6 weeks. And hopefully we'll make this environment a little bit more liquid for you guys too. But like, you know, I try to make it a point that like the way that we look at it is, I'd rather just know that all I really care about on the tech side is that your engineers are in the core team. I don't care what your platform is. I don't care how you're doing it. I just care that the people that can build it, that can design it, that can sell it are on that core team. That's it. As a VC, what do I know? I would argue that VCs in general, we don't add any value to your business. Our job is actually to just connect you, right? Now I can pat myself on the back and be like, oh, I add all this value, but look, I was a founder before, right? Dave's been one. Christine's worked at early stage startups. They can all just tell you that the VCs, it wasn't like something like the VC put in the money and all of a sudden like the business just like skyrocketed. It was probably because there was some connection that came or some functional expertise that came. So, and that's true of angels too. God, how many people like decks piss me off because it's like you built something, but you're showing me like this static thing. Like that sucks. That's like that does suck, right? I mean, put yourself in my shoes. I see a deck and I'm just like glazing over and I'm checking my email now, right? But show me a demo and two things happen. It's more interactive, right? Because you're like, okay, so this is our website. Let's imagine you're this kind of person that comes to my site. You want to log in, or this is a value prop. I'm thinking. You've got me engaged, but also more importantly, I'm learning how you think. And I would argue that early stage investors like us, we're investing in the people, right? And we're investing in how you think. So I don't care how pretty your deck is. I don't care like the transitions are smooth. Like if you have to actually like build stuff. Actually, you'll see the deck that I put together tonight for this other talk is like I did that like this morning at that desk when I was here, right? Like just show me what you built, right? All right. So here, I'm going to give you some tips and tricks. The point is, I just think way too much about this. Our job, like for 500, is like we actually want to help our companies raise even more money, and I want you guys to raise more money. You need it, right? Like, all right. So pitch the problem. Right? Again, don't tell me that like, oh, you built this cool tech and it does all this stuff. Like, what the fuck does that even mean? Like, I've built cool stuff that like, actually, I'll tell you a story of cool stuff that doesn't mean anything. Actually, one of our companies, Punched, that we invested in was acquired by Google. And the founders are so cool. There's one guy, why am I forgetting his name? Nitin? Anyway, one of the founders. He built it on the side. He builds all these like little apps on the side. And I'm not going to give him shit because he sold his company and made his money, so he's cool. But one of his apps is an app called Beer Me. So it's so simple. All you do is you open the app, there's a red button that says beer, you press it, and all it does is a Google Maps search for the closest place with beer, right? What? Now let's just imagine he was pitching that. Let's just imagine he was pitching that. Okay, you've got a slide deck, you've got an app. Wouldn't you just show the app? Because you're pitching the problem. You're like, all right, listen, it's after work, it's the middle of the day, you're pissed off, you just need a beer. Don't you just want to press the button? Fuck yeah, I want to press the button. Let's find some beer, right? Like, the point is, pitch the problem. I don't care what you built. Tell me what it solves. Tell me what, right? So, and demos are always helpful. If you have traction, pimp that shit early. Like in the first 30 seconds, right? I can't tell you how many pitches I've seen where like the guy's smart, and I'm thinking like 3 minutes into this talk, I'm like, who the fuck referred this guy? Like, I'm dying a little bit inside every time he opens his mouth. And then like near the end, all of a sudden he's like, oh, and look at my traction, I've got like 50 million users, and you're like, what the fuck, where did you just come from, right? Like, if you've got something that works, actually, you know, Fast Customer, when we were raising money for that, the average response time for the yes was like 7 minutes. Like, we would have like a 90-minute block of time to actually pitch it, right? We had our warm intros and stuff, and we had like 90 minutes to go meet the guy. And it was like, average response was like 7 minutes. It was like, wait, you've done 500,000 minutes on hold already, and 11,000 downloads in the first week, and this. Wait, just let's not even waste time. Let's just do the deal, and you get back to work, and I'll get some time back to kill my email, right? So like, if you have traction, pimp it out early. Be confident, but don't be a dick. There's a little fine line there. It's slightly a nuanced thing, right? But like, the thing is like, I want to know that you understand this market, whatever the market is that you're going after. Right? And it's okay to not know everything about the market, right? But do not be a dick, right? Like what you don't want to say to an investor is, oh, you don't really know what you're talking about, so whatever. Like, because that does two things. Number one, you just killed that relationship, and number two, he's probably going to talk, right? So anyway, I'm actually surprised that I have to even say that, but I've met a lot of crazy people. You know, the other thing is like, don't. A lot of people actually just like kind of. It's almost like they build something and they like jump on their desk and they like kick a stapler off the desk and they're like, I'm fundraising. And then they like, it's like almost all of a sudden like the world is just going to stop and all this money. And the challenge with that is that if you do that, to some extent, angels and VCs are herd mentality, like they're herd animals, right? And so like, that's just a really if you do it, if you go wide early, you run into this challenge of like, you might run into this problem of like people saying, well, who else is in the deal? And I don't think that's fair, but unfortunately it is a reality, right? So what I argue is you should surgically strike early investors. Get one, like for example, get one guy on and then like expand the circle a little bit. Like the way to do this on AngelList is you can actually hide your profile from all angels, and then you can show it to 7, and then you can do like 30, and then you can do it in waves. The way to do it in real life would be like, for example, let's say you've got a buddy that's actually building something cool, and you think it's cool. You might go and say, hey, Pankaj, this is a new thing, or hey, Abhishek, this is a new thing my friend's working on. Here's what I like about it, and I think you should take a look at it, right? They're talking to one set of investors. They get some feedback. It might be a no, it might be a yes, but the point is it's like this incremental approach to fundraising, right?
What does surgical strike mean? As in, know the investors or?
Yeah. So for example, what's a vertical that you guys would not invest in?
Construction.
Okay, so a construction company comes to you and is like, hey, dude, this is pretty awesome. That is definitely not a referral. Not only because like that's kind of a weird business to raise money on, but because in the context of surgical strike, you know these guys don't touch construction, right? So like, like the way that we look at it is that we kind of like we talk openly about what our investment verticals are, You know, so it's like web infrastructure and things like this. The point is that like all of our founders and mentors know what we like, and so they know what to refer to us and what not to. Like if you don't want to pitch us on some sort of pharmaceuticals company. Like we don't have a fund structure that can support that. Never mind, like I don't even know the first thing about that stuff, but we don't even have the fund structure for that. So like that's sort of what I mean is like try to match it up. You know, like actually, and it's also fair to say, like, let's say it's reasonably within the realm. I'm just going to use TLabs, right? Let's say you meet somebody, you like that deal, and it's reasonably in the realm of what TLabs would do, right? Reasonably, could be slightly outside. What you might say on the intro, like you might come talk to these guys and say, listen, this might be a little crazy, but here's why I love this dude, and then let them make the decision, right? But just use your best judgment, right? You guys are here, that means you're smart people. This isn't rocket science. But just know that every time you make that intro, by the way, you're expending a little bit of social capital. And then you got to do other things to earn it back, right? So just think of it as like this economy of social capital. Again, sell what they want, not what you need, right? So I'm not going to like beat that to death, but it's pretty clear. Again, I said this earlier, angels are not the same as VCs. Right? If that's not clear already, let's talk about it. That's not a dumb question. We can talk about that. And whatever you do, right? Like whether it's on your website, let's just say, God forbid, you do create a deck. The point is, faces are better than just names, right? And images are better than text. Right? This is important.
Absolutely.
I actually, at one point, raised money for one of my companies, and the way I did it was I just put the logos of the companies on the piece of paper for the meeting, and I just slid it across the table, like, that's my customer list, and then, by the way, here's my pipeline. There were no names on it, because people respond. That's, by the way, what's most surprising to me about the front of this building, I'll talk to Satyan about it today, is like, it says Times of India in like Times New Roman font. Right? And I, like, what the fuck is that? Like, on your news, I can recognize a Times paper from like a mile away. And it's because of the brand, right? So anyway, what that means is for you guys, use company logos if they're relevant to what you're doing. And whenever you're talking about your angels or your VC and other people that are backing you, even if they're advisors, and your own team, put the faces, right? Just as humans, your eye is drawn to faces. You guys know this, right? Like human psychology is like, if you look at like magazines, by the way, like I always find this really interesting. If you look at like magazines, it always, generally like for magazines for guys, it'll be like, you know, Men's Health or something, but there'll be like a girl on the front. But that's not, so that gets your attention just biologically, but what you'll notice is her eyes are typically looking at the content they want you to pay attention to. Just look at any ad you see. Anytime there's people involved, the eyes or the body language will be pointed towards the action they want you to take. Right? So I'm not just making this up. The point is that this works.
Earlier you said about some angel education program that you're going to run. Mm-hmm. Can you delve a little bit more into that? Because what I've seen, most of the angels in India have become VCs. They ask the same questions as VCs do rather than investing on social proof, as you were saying.
Yeah. Well, so that's a longer discussion, but basically it's a longer talk that I'm giving around what we look for in deals and what we think is important and what we don't think is important in a deal. Like for me, for example, in us, social proof doesn't matter. I really don't care who's in the deal. There's no I don't think, my data doesn't suggest that there's any correlation between who's in the deal and ultimate success. So I don't even ask who else is in the deal. We talk about deal terms and how we structure things, and I talk about custom common pitfalls that angels do that I've seen that can kill a deal downstream. That includes valuation, that includes super pro ratas, it includes like certain kinds of warrants and tranches and things like that. And then we talk about sample documents that, you know, I just kind of open sourcing our documents if people want to use them. We talk about AngelList a little bit and how to actually get access to more deal flow. So it is a longer talk. we're doing that. Like angel education is one of the top 3 priorities for us globally, because one of the trends that we're sort of like seeing here is that like angels are funding more and more deals, even at the Series A level.
Yeah.
I have a company actually. I have 3. Like in the last cycle of our accelerator, I had 3 companies that raised $1 million, all from angels. Right? That's a lot. I mean, the rest raised like 500K or something like that, and that's still respectable, very, very respectable. But the point is, there's 3 companies that raised nearly $1 million combined from multiple angels. That never happened 2 or 3 years ago.
I've seen that trend as well.
Yeah, and that never used to happen 5 years ago. 5 years ago, if you were raising more than like 250K, you needed a VC.
Yeah.
Right? And then like 2 years ago, it was like if you're raising up to 500K, you could do angels. Anything higher than that was VC. And today, it's almost like it's going up. And that's, I think, again, an indication that there's more and more capital available. Angels are understanding this risk class better. Founders are getting smarter. And it's just, the ecosystem's getting better. One of the other things I talk about in that talk...
There's more money with individuals.
What's that?
There's more money with individuals.
Yeah. There is a danger, by the way. I should just say it's not just like, it's not, I'm getting a little off topic, but the thing is like, it's not all good news that angels are getting bigger and bigger, meaning that angels are able to participate higher and higher. The bad news is that like, often what that means is, so the good news of angels is, including all the things we just talked about, angels move quicker, they're usually more useful in terms of operational expertise, right? But the downside is there's no lead, right? And the downside, so the thing is like, it used to be that you needed a lead to be able to like set the price and all that stuff. But that's sort of a gating item. You needed that lead before anybody else would come in. So now the market's kind of adapting and saying like, we don't really need a lead for these earlier stage companies. So the net result is good for founders because it's faster money. But the downside to that is that there's no lead when the shit hits the fan, right? Because the lead will usually take responsibility or like help fix things or help clean up messes or whatever it is. So there is a pro, there is a con there. It's not all good news, but generally speaking, this rise of the angels is good for you as founders. You get money faster, but it's tricky. One of the other things I talk about in that talk is actually valuations as well. For us, like we do basically unified deal terms across the planet. Doesn't matter to me where you come from. Doesn't matter whether you're a guy or a girl. Everybody starts out in the same playing field. And that's just our policy. The tricky part is for us as we go into new markets that, when we look at like hyper-local or local economies like India, where the angel education is not yet that deep or wide, if you will, what that usually does is like it kind of breeds, so by the way, I should just preface this by saying I believe that most people are good. I think that like when somebody screws you over, the question you shouldn't be asking yourself is why did they screw me? The question you should ask yourself is like what information were they acting on? And I have to believe that like if I'm seeing shitty deal terms here, I personally just believe that my first reaction is they're not vultures. They're acting upon information they believe is right? And in this case, in the case of India, where I believe that valuations are generally lower than market for early stage companies, as much as it is easy to just say, well, these angels are just assholes and they're all just kind of like colluding to bring the market price down, the optimist in me says, look, these guys don't realize that the world is changing right around them. They don't realize that I'm here and I'm investing in the same companies they are, right? They don't realize that you're here, right? And they don't realize that AngelList and other things are around. And I have to believe that if we actually run this angel education program globally, maybe we won't change the world, but maybe we can get, I don't know, 10 more investors, early stage investors to be active in Delhi. Maybe 3 more in Mumbai, I don't know. But that's good. That's what we're actually fighting for. So, so there's this nuance, right? Because like for us, when we go into a new market, you don't want to go in, like, it's actually kind of delicate for us because you don't want to go in and try to change the market real fast because then you piss off everybody locally. like on the VC angel side, and I need them to participate in your deals. I need them to participate. So there's this elegant kind of balance of educating them on the market, educating them on why we do things the way we do it, and educating them on why we believe founder-friendly terms are right? But just to be clear, I'm not saying that you should treat angels or VCs like banks, right? You should not be trying to optimize your deal terms to like only give me a 2x return. Never mind like my legal responsibilities. That's just an asshole thing to do, because I'm not a bank, right? At the same time, though, I want you to get rich. If there's any one thing that's driven Silicon Valley and that's driven the U.S. the U.S. venture capital community, it's just that the community has realized over the years that if the founder is happy, generally everybody else will be happy. If the founder is not happy, problems arise. And that founder could walk away. The founder could just not be motivated, right? So anyway, I actually think, and I don't really have any data to prove this, I actually think that like India, just like most economies, are, in terms of the internet world and venture capital, I believe it's just about 10 years behind where we are. And just as an aside, I'll just summarize and keep moving here a bit. I'll just say that like, I actually don't think the big so there's a lot of people that talk about like the growth of this market here in India, right? Like 100 million, depending on who you talk to, they say there's 100 million internet users and in 5 years there'll be 500 million or something like that, right? Okay, if it's 400 million, 500 million, it's a big fucking number. So the point is, like, I don't think that's the opportunity here. And I don't think that's the opportunity anywhere else. Brazil, China, Russia, anywhere. I don't think that market growth is the opportunity. The opportunity is that in the US, we spent the last 15 years, arguably, so it's 2012, 15 years ago is when the internet started penetrating into homes and being more ubiquitous. Like, we spent the last 15 years learning about search engine optimization, SEM, AdWords, user acquisition, split testing, lean startup, right? We learned about all these things, and we basically tripped and stumbled our way forward, and we now have these like theories around early stage startups. And those theories are what allow me and 500 startups to exist, right? Because we're taking advantage of those new techniques. The thing is, the big opportunity for places like India is that we want to bring that here. And I would rather, the big opportunity is, I don't want you to spend 15 years learning the same stuff we did. Maybe, just maybe, I can just fly over a bunch of my mentors and give you guys access to our talks, our collective brain power in the US. Not so that you can do things our way, but so that you can actually make even better judgments about what you should be doing. Right? And just to be clear, I'm not suggesting that everything that we've done will work in this economy or anywhere else. The culture is different, buying habits are different, they're all different. The guys at TLabs, their job is to invest in smart people. That's the same job that every VC has. So what we're really trying to do is invest in smart people, give you all the information you need, and hopefully trust that you'll make the right decisions. So anyway, that's the big opportunity. That functional expertise is really valuable, and that's actually what I find most interesting about this TLabs thing, by the way, which, it's still new, but the thing is, like, if you guys build interesting things, frankly, you could test them out. They've got, what, a couple 100 million users, or millions of users?
600 million page views.
Yeah, so that's not insignificant, right? And if you're building stuff for that market, I mean, Satyan's told, I'm sure you guys know more about this than I do, but like, the way that Satyan sells the TLabs thing to outsiders, it seems to me, is like, well, if great technology is being built in TLabs, they can actually try it on our user base. They don't even have to worry about user acquisition. They just load that shit up, and I can get them like 50 million page views in like a minute, right? So like the point is that use those things. Like data design and distribution matter today. They matter more than anything else. And notice I didn't say anything about tech. I didn't say anything about money. I didn't say anything. I just said data design and distribution. Right? And we'll talk more about some of that stuff at the product talk this afternoon. Just real quick, I'm almost done here. The point is, in general, do not innovate in finance or legal. You'll kill your business. Later stage investors, like I believe there's very few things you can do in your startup that are irreversible. Finance and legal are irreversible. You fuck that up, you kill all downstream money. It's just a fact, right? So if you want to learn about like standard deal terms or how notes are structured or equity, actually, frankly, what I learned from was a website called venturehacks.com/archives. Everything, every topic, everything's there. I learned everything from it. And it's actually written by the founders of AngelList, right? But, you know, you want vanilla everything, right? I would even argue, and this is the part, like, since we're so new in India and we've only done a few deals here, you know, the three deals we've done, and the fourth one that I think we're going to do soon is, these are all U.S. Delaware C corporations. Standard incorporation, standard entity, standard everything. And not all of those people are citizens. They've figured out ways to do it, but they've found attorneys. We can help with that. I'm sure these guys can help too. The reason is not because I'm like trying to wave an American flag here, but the fact of the matter is there is more, like, you want to optimize for a legal and financial structure that allows the most investors to come in, right? So why would you create, for example, I don't know what you call your entities here, but why would you create an entity in Delhi if you know that like your favorite deals or the most the most trending deals right now are being incorporated in Delaware in the United States? Why would you do that? So the way to really think about this is that like if there's this many investors that will invest in a Delaware C corporation, right? Because globally, Delaware C corporations are like sort of the global standard for early stage anyway, right? And that's sort of biased and definitely biased anyway. But like the market goes to like this big if you pick some out of the way place that nobody knows. And the reason is because like there's extra legal fees that the investor has to go through and pay to actually understand the laws there. They don't want to pay that. They'd rather have more money go to you than for them to actually have to pay legal fees. So don't innovate there. Venturehacks.com, check that out. You know, just understand that fundraising is a process. Right? And Dave actually, I think, sometimes says like you can't spell fundraising without FUN, like fun, right? So like one of our brand values is we have fun. It's actually the first brand value. Like we generally won't invest in people we can't drink with. I'm not even joking. Like that's true. So like, but fundraising is a process, and it's a process. You just get to know people. Don't think you're going to sell something on the first day, right? Like just move it along, get to know people, right? If they're not going to say yes now, no big deal. Just be nice. Refer other deals to them that might be interesting, right? Like just know that it's just this thing you got to do. Right? Has anybody ever done like a sales job, by the way? Yeah. So like the thing is like I remember when I was selling cars, like this is I don't know, 15, 12, I don't know, a long time ago. But the thing is like all I remember was it's a pure numbers game. It's like if you read about conversion funnels, right? It's a pure numbers game, right? You get 50 guys in the front of the funnel, you talk to 50 customers or 50 angels or whatever. You know, some percentage go to for the test drive or the demo. Some percentage actually want to learn more about the business and meet the team. And then this small percentage are like, this is fantastic, it's going to change the world, I want to fund you. So don't be disappointed if people say no. Oh, one little pro tip, by the way. When you talk about, remember we were talking about like surgical strikes and stuff like that. What you may want to do is like, let's say you have a list of like, I don't know, 5 local angels or VCs that you want to talk to. If you're doing great stuff, I gotta believe, for example, the TLabs guys will introduce you to those people if they know them, right? And what I would say is like, before you ask for the intro to those 5, the top 5 that you're interested in, maybe pick the bottom 3, get some intros or find a way to go talk to them, and just test your pitch. And pay particular attention to the questions. Don't try to answer every question. I mean, try to answer, but don't try to like refute or rebut them. But understand the question, because that question will come up again. And you either need to address it in your slide deck, or you need to talk about it before it comes up. Right? So that's a little pro tip. Okay, so last thought I just want to leave you with is that like, by its nature, the internet has taken away any of the barriers that used to be in place, right? Like, like the fact is that it used to be that, I don't know, if my plumbing exploded, I'd have to go hire some plumber that's going to charge me $500. And in some cases, maybe that's still the case. But the fact of the matter is, I can now Google it. And even if I can't fix it, maybe I can at least diagnose it, right? The point is that information is no longer like controlled by a few select people. Like 500 years ago, the people that could read were the ones that made all the money. They were the ones that controlled things, right? The point is the world's changing. And you guys should just know that there's hope, right? Like India is not not in any way any worse or better off than any other emerging economy right now, right? You guys just need to focus on building fantastic businesses, and I guarantee you the money will follow, right? We're here. TLabs is here. I know lots of angels right now that are coming out. There's Sasha Mirchandani back down in Mumbai. There's here locally, I think there's Bloom. There's Lightspeed. There's all these guys, right? And these are smart people. These are really smart people. You can't tell me that if you didn't have a reasonable business that they wouldn't invest. So anyway, that's that. I went way over time, but again, I'm just Paul Singh on Twitter. Happy to answer any questions.
You also talk about venture capitalists.
Say again?
There's a term floating around called MENT or venture capitalists, where some angel will actually take it further, the kind of advice, etc., etc. I personally see a lot of scope for that, because in engineering colleges, etc., etc., I know a lot of people who have done very well in jobs per se, and today in India there is a huge, everybody wants to do a business. Everybody who's doing even very well in jobs.
Well, that's just a cultural thing, right?
Yeah. So we are at the tipping point in my view, but they don't know even the fundamentals of it at the moment. So what they're actually looking for, because money is available.
Yeah.
At least that's my opinion. But
Yeah.
they're looking for somebody to come in and partner with them. They will, because the moment you start a business, you need HR, you need certain personnel, you need technology, you need legal advice, etc., etc. So somebody who can help with them with that, and so on and so forth.
My answer is really simple. So two-part answer. Just keep it really simple. Is like, if that person has written checks to anybody else and wants to be a mentor to you without writing a check, don't do it. And the reason is because, like, for example, as a downstream investor, I know that guy's writing checks, and it makes me wonder why he won't give you money, right? So you don't want investors being advisors, right? Now there are some like subsets of, or some side cases or edge cases where you do. That's a different discussion, but like 99.99% of the time, if the guy is writing checks elsewhere, you do not want him to be an advisor.
Could there be a, like, sorry to interrupt, could there be a, like a space thing, like I only do B2B and you're B2C or things like that?
Sure, but if he doesn't want to touch your space and invest in it, why would he want to advise you? So the second point I would just say, and by the way, you guys can call it bullshit, it's fine. My only argument to you would be I've invested in 256 companies and my data set is larger than yours, so F you. But like the second thing I would say is that as a matter of policy at 500 startups, we have 175 mentors, not a single one is compensated by us. Right? There's a couple reasons for that. The high-level reasons for that is, number one, financial motives should not be in place. They should not be involved. Like, there should not be a financial incentive for somebody to mentor you or not mentor you. It's just not right. Right? So we do not incentivize them. Now, if they find a startup they like, it's up to them and the founder to figure out if there's some mutual relationship there. Right? But we police that very carefully. Very, very carefully. One thing that the U.S. has kind of, again, because our early stage market is just a little bit more advanced than most places right now. We had this same problem of like mentor advisors or mentor equity or whatever it was a few years ago, and it's almost entirely gone away because, like, frankly, what can they tell you that you can't find on the internet? Right? What can they possibly do? The thing is, like, separately, I actually had one of our companies is a They sell to celebrities, right? So like they have customers like Pitbull. My second startup, so I had an exit in my first startup. I went off to do this other one. That startup fell on its face because I made that mistake. And what I learned is that contacts are not contracts. That's point one. Point two is, let's just assume that you did the deal with that guy that I just described, right? Okay, you could argue that if all of a sudden he blows your business up like 500x, yeah, you should be compensated for that, right? You should give him 5%, I don't care, right? But statistically speaking, none of those deals will come through. And then what? You just diluted another 5% probably. It's harder to actually unwind somebody from your cap table than to get divorced. That's a fact, right? That is a fact. So, like, just say no to that. I don't care, like, it could be like the best professor at IIT, right? Make him an advisor if you want, right? But make it very clear what you expect. Actually, I don't know what case law is here in India, but in the US, actually, in order for a contract to be valid, there has to be consideration, right?
That's the same one.
Same thing here. Okay, so like what we tell people basically is for early stage investors, early stage advisors, generally speaking, you're talking about a 1/4 point of equity, so 0.25%, maybe up to 0.5%. If it's like somebody really fantastic, really critical, and you really love them, maybe up to 1%, but you don't really want any more than that. And in that document, you want to make it very clear about, okay, we get 1 phone call a week, we get this, we get that, whatever, because if there's any breach, you can then kill off the contract and stop the vesting period, right? Because what you don't want is dead weight on the cap table. So you guys should read, if you haven't already, check out venturehacks.com/archives and read about like the cap table, read about that stuff. Because the thing is, like, for example, every investor, angel or VC, will have different opinions on this. My opinion is that founders should retain majority control of the company through the Series B, right? So I'm just saying that the founders collectively, so whether it's 1 or 5 founders, I don't really care. I don't care what their split is, but I believe they should have 51% control of the company minimum up until the Series B, or ideally even through it. The only way to really optimize for that is to have crazy traction so that all these investors are fighting over you. You know, it's not possible otherwise. But the reason I believe that is that, like, in today's world, if you're a smart founder, okay, look, to found a company, you're already like a different kind of person, right? And then to get traction on top of that, you're a very different kind of person. And then to make money on top of that, you're very, very different. I mean, like, you know, you're kind of like at the top of this pyramid. And then long term, to have an exit, you are very rare, right? Now, the thing is that, like, corporate recruiters, I mean, I don't know how the Times actually sources people, but I'm sure there's like a recruiting arm, just like there is in US corporations. The kind of people that you are not on those radars, right? You're just not on those radars. And the thing is, though, is that, like, these companies, these big companies, have 2 options, generally speaking. They can either try to, like, replace you with 50 more people, right? So, like, one smart, really awesome hacker kind of person is replaced by, like, 50 worker drones, and that kind of sucks. That is one option. The other option is they buy you, or they partner with you, or they, right? And the thing is, though, is that, like, I believe that if the founders are left with too little of the company, then arguably these other acquirers or downstream acquirers don't really have to pay as much, right? And the thing is, like, as a VC, I'm optimizing for return. I fundamentally believe that, like, if the founders don't get rich, we don't get rich. Actually, if you look at our deal terms, we're buying common stock alongside the founders, right? We don't do preferred. We might, like, if this in the Series A, if like, you know, you've agreed with other investors that you want to do that, then, you know, we'll step up to that level. But as a matter of policy, we start out, we'll look for common stock right next to the founders, and it's to make a point. Is it like I was a founder, right? Dave was a founder. Christine was early at YouTube. Like, the only reason we did okay was because our investors supported us, and they believe that founders should get rich alongside the investors. We're all capitalists, don't get me wrong, right? Like, we're all blood-sucking capitalists. I want to make just as much money as everybody else. But I just want to do it in a sustainable way. Because the problem here is there's this nasty snowball. Like, if you look at the macro economy here, like, this nasty snowball, if, let's just say I fund your company, all of a sudden you go to this $1 billion exit, right? and I get most of those proceeds and you busted your ass for 7 years, never mind the fact that we might have a hard relationship, the more scary part is that you will not invest in another startup, or you will actually continue that trend. And that's bad. That's bad. Like, the reason the US has done so well in the early stage venture community is because founders are funding other founders. Founders at their Series B are taking money off the table and then becoming investors. We've had 12 exits. We actually announced our 13th exit yesterday, reported, went to LinkedIn. Every founder has become an LP in our fund. Not because we asked. We never ask. But every single one has become an LP in our fund. That's important. That may not mean much to you guys, but like, for us, that's a metric that we look at, because that means that we fostered the right relationship. And don't get me, and by the way, this works. Like, I don't know how much you guys know. Like, you find me a fund that can do that in 18 months, and I'll gladly shut up. But, you know, I just believe that, like, founders need to be supported. That being said, remember that the other side of that coin is you can't be assholes. Right? Do not treat angels or VCs like banks. Just know that I'm trying to get a 10x return. Angels have to make money because the most of you will fail. Statistically, most of you will not be doing what you're doing in about a year. I think most of you guys probably have a 6 to 12 month runway anyway. Right? The statistics are against you. Just like we said earlier, the odds are against you. And so, like, that's why I have to have a return, because if I know that, you know, half my companies or more are going to fail, then I have to make enough off of the winners to not only cover the losses, but to actually make some money for my investors, and to fund the next round of people. So, anyway, I appreciate the time. I'll be around for a while. I'm going to be around for the rest of the day, actually. We'll talk about product stuff later on this afternoon. I'll try not to ramble as much. But, you know, again, if you need me, I'm just Paul Singh on Twitter and on AngelList. Maybe that's your homework, actually. You guys should create AngelList profiles. Before you leave TLabs, you should raise more money. You have to raise more money. And I'll talk to you guys about how to encourage that. So,
cool. Thank you, Paul.